In this video, we're going to talk about our normal curve lab. And to do this lab, we're going to need our Chromebooks, and we're going to go back on Google Drive and use Google Sheets, something we haven't used in a while. So first, we're going to use a spreadsheet called Stat Survey, and this is a spreadsheet of a survey of, I think, how many rows are there? 199 people, and they've been surveyed these things. They have their sex, their age, their height, the number of coins, the number of keys, the number of credit cards, their pulse, whether they exercise, whether they smoke, what their color is, and the hands for right and left-handed. And we're going to use those questions to answer, or use that data to answer these questions. First, what column is the whole sheet sorted on? So you want to look at this and figure out of which of these columns are the numbers listed in order. Are they sorted in order? Sort the sheet based on the number of coins and how many 0 coins are there. You're also going to have to sort the sheet on the height and the pulse. So because of that, I'm going to do another one. I'm going to do the coins, okay? Because we do not have anything. I'm sorry, I'm not doing coins. We're going to do keys because we don't have anything else on this where we're going to use the keys. So I'm going to do that to refresh your memory. So to refresh your memory on how you sort something, you highlight the column, you go up to data, sort the range, or sort the sheet by column E. Right? You want to sort everything by column E. So what that does is it changes every column based on column E. So now you can see, based on column E, my keys are now in order. So you can see I have 2 people that had no keys on them. And at the bottom, I had 1 person that had 26 keys on it. So that's how you sort one column. Now, it does kind of talk about here on how to sort, go to data, sort range, and so forth. That gives you another option. So let me show you another option. If I wanted to, let me go back to sort the keys again. Another way of doing this is to go to data, range, advanced options, click data, has header rows, and now you can pick this based on keys that you want to sort, and you hit enter, and it does the same thing. Some other things you want to do is you want to, once again, sort, figure out how many are taller than 75 for the height, how many coins are there that are 0, those kind of things. And then we're going to look at the pulse, and we want to find our average and standard deviation of our pulse. And remember how we do that? The pulse is column G. So I'm going to go over here to the side and say equals average, and I'm not going to do pulse. I'm going to do the keys, and we just go over here and you click column E, and there is the average number of keys. And then for standard deviation, I'm going to talk standard DEV, parentheses, going to do the keys again, hit enter, and so there is the mean and standard deviation. I'm doing it for keys, you're going to do it for pulse, and then you're going to write those 2 values that you find right here. Now, once you find those, and one of the reasons we're going to spreadsheet is we go to our project here, we're going to need to use our spreadsheet and stuff again. So once you go to those, you come down to your normal curve. From what we did yesterday with empirical rule, you were going to write your numbers down. And let's just kind of pretend and do this. I'm going to say 5 and 3 to make the math really easy right here. Let's say this is 5. My standard deviation is 3, which is 8, which is 11, which is 14. Which is 2, which is -1, which is -4. Now, if you get something like this, this can happen where you get numbers that are negative and don't really work. Just go with it. It's okay. Okay? So that's not what you're going to get. Don't round. I am rounding here just to quickly do it in a video and make the math easy. When you're doing it, go with the numbers. Now, we know, based on the empirical rule, what percent of data is within 1 standard deviation of the mean. Empirical rule would tell us that's 68. Find the range of values based on the empirical rule from the normal curve. So in my case, it would be 2 to 8. 68% should be between 2 and 8. Now, the next part, what percent of the data is actually within 1 standard deviation? Okay, so 1 standard deviation is 2 to 8. You're going to have some decimals here, that's fine. What is actually in from 2 to 8? So I'm going to go back to my list and figure out, okay, how many are actually between 2 and 8? So if I look here, 18 starts at 2. And if I go all the way down to 8, or the last 8, that is right here. So that tells me it was 164 to 18. Let me go back to my thing. So when I look 2 to 8, it went from 18 to 164, which gives me 146. And if I take 146 out of 199, my actual data, I had 0.734% of my data was within 1 standard deviation. So I'm using this range here from 2 to 8 to go back and look at my range of keys to see how many are actually between 2 and 8. Then within 2 standard deviations is 95. So I go back up here. 2 standard deviations would be from 11 to -1. You can't get -1 here, but we'll go with it. So that is -1 to 11. So now I want to figure out how many there are there. So I go back. I go to the top. It starts at 0, so I want to go all the way down to 11. Here is my last row, that is 11, which is 196. So I have 196 out of 199, which gives me 0.985. So based on empirical rule, remember, empirical rule is a general guideline, is 95. My actual data is actually 98.5. And then we do the same thing for here. Empirical rule is 99.7. My data from up here is -4 to 14. -4 to 14. And remember, let me just say it again, every number I'm putting down here, these are not the correct numbers. I am doing keys. I am not doing pulse like you are. This is just a guide to help you. So now I want to look at my keys, and I'm going to 14, which is 98. So is that right? 198, yep. Realize I have to subtract 1, and I get 0.99. So that's what you're doing here. You are using Google Sheets, the first part of Google Sheets, to fill out this information, and it's a good review on how to do all of this. Then you're filling out this normal curve for the pulse. Okay, for the pulse. I did it with the keys, so these numbers are not correct. Then once you find your chart, you go to here. You may need to double check. I'm not sure I counted the initial row for there. You might have to double check that when you do that to count how many are between these two. This one should have been okay. Here, I'm not sure this is right. I think this may have been 195 because the first row is my header. We have to go back and recheck that to figure it out. That's why I went 197 here. So that's what we're doing on this project. You need the Chromebook to start, but once you get this chart on number 7 set up, you still need to go back to the chart to figure out, go back to Google Chrome to figure out what percentage and how many you have between that range. So you're doing all of those things with the pulse once you get going. Hopefully that helps. You are now ready to do the lab on the normal curve.